On P, I'd like to discuss P of their responsibility for Monday, April 17th, 2023. And we're meeting the Dare County Administration Building in Manteo. The time is now 4 p.m. Before we begin, I'd like to request a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The agenda has been approved. Next, I'd like to request a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into closed session to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consider confidential personnel matters as provided in Statute 143-318.11A6 to prevent disclosure of confidential information as provided in General Statute 143-318.11A1, and to consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, 20 U.S. Code 1232G 34 CFR Part 99.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. The open session, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we return to open session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a
Approve the amended agenda as read.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of amending the agenda for the reasons requested, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been amended. Next, we need to approve the amended agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amended agenda has been approved. And once again, we'll move public comment back a little bit. I'll open the floor for announcements. Mr. Bassnight, any announcements?
No, sir. No, sir, I do not believe so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could beg your indulgence, do we have audio?
Somewhat.
Okay.
I believe the chairman's microphone is not working.
Okay.
It's on. Test.
Mine works.
Is it push down all the way?
It's on, yeah.
Lights on.
Lights on.
Mine works. So.
I'll use hers. I'll use Ms. Bothwell's.
Are you good?
We're- I'll use hers.
No, leave this just in case, just turn it on.
Okay. No, you're fine. So let's go ahead and move. The next item on the agenda is reports and items for information. And our first speaker is Ms. Denise Fallon. Ms. Fallon.
And I think I have a presentation somewhere. Holly, is this mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Here we go. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to come this evening and present a little bit of information about the possibility of considering student school board members to join your group. So again, this idea was discussed with our secondary leadership team on two separate occasions on March 9th at our leadership meeting and April 5th with the high school principals. And those leaders at that meeting thought that this would be a good way for students to have a voice in Dare County. So if we go to the next slide, here's a little bit of a historical context as far as student school board members in North Carolina. In 1972, the North Carolina State Department of Public Instruction reported that they encouraged local school boards to consider roles for students on school boards. There are students on school boards throughout the state, and in particular, there are two student advisors to the North Carolina State Board of Education, and they've been in that role since 1986. Again, this is an opportunity of leadership for some of our high school students. Again, just a way to nurture that citizenship and the democratic process for students. I got this quote from the National School Board Association. By creating opportunities for students to participate in the democratic process, school leaders can help school board members learn how to observe the laws and rules, how to resolve conflicts peacefully, how to demonstrate a commitment to the public good, and how to work for the community and cooperate with all stakeholders. And I'm not sure students really understand what that looks like in action. And so this would be a great opportunity if they were able to join this board. So when I first came down to Dare County, my first school board meeting, we actually had a student member who spoke that day and talked about student voice. I also attended an open house at First Flight High School and picked up one of their publications, and I got this quote from that. It's from the Nighthawk News, an editorial from the winter edition 2022. The board holds so much power, and at least from a student perspective, fails to be checked in its reach by the opinions of the body they govern. Obviously, the students feel that they want their voice to be heard in some way. And again, this is just the first step in helping students understand the hard work that you do. So again, just a brief description. Obviously, it gives students a voice. They can bring concerns to you. They can share information with you as a board. Again, it provides that student perspective, and it's an incredible educational leadership opportunities for students. Students would be able to provide information to help you relate to all student levels. What I would envision is that there's some sort of student outreach, not just to the high schools, but to the middle schools and the elementary schools, and that they possibly could facilitate some sort of board spotlight of student programs within the district. And so what I would propose is that the student school board member, that 11th grade students apply for this position, that we would have one representative from each high school. I think that would give us a great representation of the different groups within our county. They would serve in that capacity during their senior year of high school. The standard for an applicant would be an overall 3.8 GPA. Again, GPA, excuse me, it's an opportunity for them to demonstrate leadership. They do have to have 2 staff recommenders within their high school who could speak to their leadership skills and ability to serve in that capacity. I'm not going to click on the highlighted protocols, but it just sort of outlines the process that I've outlined on the next slide. So what would this look like? Well, of course, you'd have to share information with the public and let students know that this is something that you're going to try to do. How would you do that? Through email and newsletters, announcement at the schools, specifically through the student government organizations at all of those high schools. If students are interested in applying for those positions, there would be an application window. The board itself or a committee could interview and go through a selection process throughout the summer. And then maybe possibly vote on a student school board member in August so that they could begin serving in September. And again, that's for 1 year. Now, these members would not be voting members. Obviously, they would not attend closed session. They would just be here to provide information to the board as needed, or to share insights, or again, present information about what's going on in the schools. And really, it's really a blank canvas. We can kind of define it any way you choose to at this point. But I think it's a great leadership opportunity for students. So I just wanted to bring that to you. I know that Mr. Bassnight has reached out to districts to see how many across the state are doing that, and I think there are several. And again, I know that the State Board of Education has 2 members. And gosh, wouldn't it be great if somebody from Dare County could be on that board for sure. But did you have any questions for me?
Ms. Fallon, if you don't mind, I have received responses from several districts. Like you said, the state board. The community college board also has a student
That's
member.
correct.
Currituck, Camden, Watauga, Yadkin, Bertie, and Charlotte Mecklenburg have all gotten back to me since yesterday that they all have student school board members.
Thank you. And again, I think it's an incredible leadership opportunity for some of our students.
Would the students be involved in forming the program as to what they want to do, how they
Sure,
want to present
absolutely,
it?
absolutely. Especially, I'd say in that first year, it would be student-driven. We kind of lay out a framework of what they couldn't do. They can't attend the closed session and that sort of thing. But they could certainly be part of designing the program as far as community outreach, visiting the schools, you know, how to gain information from their peers on what that would look like, and that sort of thing. Absolutely.
And-
Ms. Fe-
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
How difficult would this be for Hatteras to get a student up here?
I don't know the answer to that, but I would think that a student would consider that before they applied.
Ms. Fallon, how would the students interact with our middle school and elementary school while they have a full day of studies as it is? How would they go out and venture to the other schools and see what they're concerned about? Because it's not just about the high schools, it's about our elementary and middle as
Sure,
well.
absolutely. Well, what I would envision with that is that I would work collaboratively with those secondary schools and with Ms. Sproul with the elementary schools, to try to set up, if you will, those appointments, either those visits to the school. Some students could possibly do that as part of their leadership with maybe a club or something that they're involved with at the secondary level. But they could do that after school as well.
Because currently, right now, Mr. Bassnight, we have students advisory team that meets quarterly with you and your staff,
That's
correct?
correct.
That's superintendent's advisory.
Superintendent
sir.
advisory,
Mhm.
and that's the students. So basically, we're looking possibly at the same information that the students from every school that will meet with Mr. Bassnight and the staff could give the same information to us and come back with it at our board meeting. Instead of do it quarterly, maybe we could do it more often with his staff.
I don't know the purpose of that advisory board, so I'll let Mr. Bassnight speak to that.
I'm envisioning, as you said, the superintendent's student advisory. I go to the students to ask specific questions and gain specific information. I'm anticipating the same thing for you from a board perspective, not the superintendent's perspective or necessarily what's going on in the classroom. And as far as being able to develop that information to bring back to the board what's going on in the middle and elementary schools, that would be over a month's period of time between meetings. So I don't think it would be that difficult for students to find an activity that's going on in elementary school, whether by the school calendar or working with Ms. Fallon, or in a middle school, of things that took place this month that were, wow, that was bright, that were outstanding. And I'll again, it's an opportunity for 3 high school students, seniors, to request or apply to you. And that's what they're doing. They're applying. They don't just wake up one day and become student board members. To apply to you to say, I want to do this. I want to be a connection between what goes on in my building and the buildings around me and the buildings that I came up through and you as a board. I want to give you a student's perspective about the decisions you're making, the things you're discussing, the things that take place during our day, some exciting things that are happening in our schools. It's their opportunity to lead, to be in those leadership roles. And I've got to believe there are students in all 3 of our high schools, no matter the distance or not, who would be willing to step out on their own and say, I'd like to be a part of this. And ultimately, I would love to see this evolve to the point that, Dare County Schools has a student board member who sits on the State Board of Education. That would be sort of difficult right now because they've actually never sat on a Board of Education. So again, providing leadership opportunities for students, providing you as the voting body about things from the way they see them. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go a little bit further with
That's
this.
fine. Can I add one comment? though?
Please.
So the opposite of that is true as well. Those students hear your discussions. They hear what's going on, and they have the opportunity to go back to their peers, to their buildings, and share what they've learned, about the work that you do. And so I think that that's powerful as well.
My desire is to, and I went to the Nighthawk staff and sat down with them, had a very long discussion with them after they wrote that op-ed in the paper in the winter. And I told them my desire as the superintendent is that our students be involved in their education. And if we don't ask them their opinions and we don't give value to those opinions, then it's sort of difficult to say that they're involved in what they do. My desire is that teachers and students discuss what goes on in classrooms on any given day, and the student communicates with the teacher. These are the things I need. These are the challenges I'm having, so that the teacher can address those. And I think this is a golden opportunity for the Board of Education to step out in a leadership role and say, we see the value in that, and we would like to hear those opinions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bass Knight. Are there any other questions?
No,
Oh, sorry.
there we go. It's on. One thing that I've mentioned and I've talked to people about is we need more leadership or some more leadership program in the district. And I think this is just another one of those programs that is going to expand the leadership capabilities of our students. And I think, I'm all for it. I mean, this has been the more leadership, the better. I mean,
Thank you.
Ms. Fallon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Bass Knight, if it's okay, I want to move to Mr. Shaw. Let's go ahead and have public comment, Mr. Shaw.
Absolutely.
The Board of Education welcomes public comment, and we know some people might have been delayed. And so the board wants to hear from people, and so move the public comment period. Per policy, the people who speak will have 3 minutes. We appreciate your staying within that time period. No obscene language, of course, personal attacks, et cetera, but opinions are welcome. And the board is very thankful to hear from the public. We have 4 people who have signed up today for public comment. First would be Marion Midget.
Good evening. I'm back. I'm Marion Midget, representing the League of Women Voters of Dare County, here to present the 23 Citizens Guide, your guide to community services. And each one of you got one, okay. And I know most of you already have seen this. We're a little behind us in our presentations to the government groups. Complimentary copies of this guide were published by the League since 1988, and they're distributed annually to government and business offices throughout Dare County. It contains information for local, state, and national governmental agencies, voting information, emergency numbers, and a great deal more. Our guide is published under the auspices of the State League of Women Voters Citizen Education Foundation. On the back, you'll find acknowledgement of the municipalities and local businesses that donated generously toward our publication expenses. Thank you, and thanks to all the staff, the Board of Education staff, who helped update this information for our yearly version. League members have distributed 6,800 copies of the guide from Duck to Hatteras Village, Roanoke Island, and mainland Dare. You'll find them in libraries, post offices, the Baum Center, the Tillett Center, the Fessenden Center, as well as town and county offices. League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Publishing this guide is part of our continued commitment to provide pertinent information to voters. Membership in the League is open to anyone of voting age, male or female. Students 16 and older may join free, and new members are always welcome. Thank you for your support. We hope you'll find the guide useful. Thank you.
The next person who signed up is Jenny Thomas.
Hi, guys. Evening. Half of our team is here. The rest of them got stuck in traffic, so I'm going to apologize. I am the coach from First Flight Middle School's Odyssey of the Mind team. Our team has made it to World Finals. For those of you who are unaware of what Odyssey of the Mind is, it's a STEM-based creativity competition that helps students develop skills in problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, math, language arts, science, engineering, and performing arts. These kids started the year off by joining the group, which is advertised at the schools. The school itself, each school that has a team, we had 6 teams this year. From Kitty Hawk, we had 3 teams from Kitty Hawk Elementary, a team from First Flight Middle School, a team from First Flight Elementary School, and a team from Manteo Middle. All of those teams started practicing. They all have teacher liaisons. All of the schools paid for those teams to be registered. From there, they have all of those teams have teacher liaisons. Our teacher liaison is Marianne McMains. Miss West is the teacher liaison for First Flight Elementary School. My son was on the team when she was there back in 2020. Who is the teacher liaison for Manteo?
Miss Dixon, Kimberly Dixon.
So Miss Dixon is the teacher liaison for Manteo Middle. As you can see, we've got people from Manteo here from the OM team. It is a school-sponsored activity. Our name in all of the cases is the school's name. In order to register as a school or as a team, you have to have a public school, or you can do it as a private school, but it has to be a school. You have to register, and our team is First Flight Middle School. We didn't choose it. That's the name that it's been since they started the program. First Flight Elementary School is theirs on all of our banners, on all of our paperwork. That's how you sign your name. Our team name, it's the name of the school. You have a teacher liaison, and then you have your coaches who are all volunteers. The school had to purchase that membership in order for the kids to join, and they can have up to 7 teams under each membership. Once they get a membership, those then can register to compete if they have full teams. The school district also paid for those registrations. They also paid for the registrations, so that was the registration for us to compete at regionals. We had 6 teams from Dare County that made it to regionals. From regionals, 5 of those teams have moved on to states. With the 5 teams that made it to states, only 1 team this year made it to the World Finals. Last year, Kitty Hawk Elementary School made it to the World Finals. So Dare County has some really smart kids who have worked really hard. Our guys decided to do problem number 2, which is because I can, and they had to make a Rube Goldberg machine. Our kids had to come up with their idea. They had to create their costumes, write their scripts. They had to do all of the work that was involved in making their project. So for our guys, they had to do all of their electrical work. They had to figure out the mathematics involved to make their elevator system work. They have a ball bearing that completes a circuit to start the signal on their machine, which again is electrical. That's something that we did not get to help them with. They all had to do this on their own. We could watch to make sure that they didn't, hurt themselves using the power tools and the electricity. But from there, that's about all we could do. So they had to figure out the mathematics of how much weight and counterweights did they need to have their elevator system work as their ball bearing dropped and their elevator system raised up to drop a sugar cube into their class. For their simple task, they made a cup of tea. These kids have worked really hard, and not just our team. All of the teams in general have worked really hard. Up until this point, the parents are responsible for paying for the kids, for their lodging, for all of their food, for the competitions. We have paid for their lodging and their food for the competition in Swansboro. We have paid for the lodging and the competition stuff that we needed to do at states. All of the stuff for the machine. And at least in our case, we got $100 from the women's club, which they gave to 5 of the 6 teams. They were unaware of the 6th team to help offset the costs. Our kids had to figure out the cost of each individual thing. If they had a box of nails, they had to figure out the math for each individual item that they used, not just what they purchased, so that way another team could have the same budget. Our budget was $155 to be able to create that and replicate the machine that our children made. We're here asking for help. we're asking for help to get to Worlds. It is a very expensive adventure. It's $650 per student and per chaperone. We also need the money to get there. It's not cheap to either fly or drive or to take a charter bus. We are going to Michigan State University at the end of May, May 23rd through the 27th, 24th. So these kids have worked hard, and all of the teams, not just ours, need to be recognized for the hard work that they do outside of school for a school event. Do you guys have any questions about it? You're welcome.
The next person who has signed up is Melissa Trotter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really have anything prepared because I just found out about this board meeting and for the Odyssey of the Mind team. I was one of the coaches for Manteo Middle. Our team participated at regionals in Swansboro with the First Flight Middle School team. We made a grave point to make sure that we saw every team that participated out of Dare County, regardless of school. That was just a way to show our team support for our community and the children in it. These kids work extremely hard. And one of the big things for me is that these kids we're not allowed to help them. And that was really hard as a parent, to step back and allow these kids to take the reins and bring their own creative and problem solving to the forefront. We just wanted to show our support for them and all Odyssey of the Mind teams, because this develops great skills, problem solving, communication, again, even problem solving to raise the money to get to these events. Like she said, they have to make a whole budget, whether it's donated or they recycle trash, all those things add up. So it teaches them accounting, it teaches them physical, building, electronics, as well as just getting along with other people, listening to other people's ideas and working together as a team to make these ideas come to fruition. Like she said, we do this all in the name of the school, through the schools. And I feel that it's really important for the development of our children and thus our future to support them financially or in any other possible way to get them to where they can go to Worlds and participate on a grander level with teams from China or the UK. That's it. Sorry. Good.
Here is George Lurie.
My name's George Lurie, and I'm the lay leader of the Jewish community of the Outer Banks. My wife and I have lived here almost 20 years, and I taught math as an adjunct at COA for 10 and a half years. While anti-Semitism in Dare County is hopefully a thing of the past, in general, it has seen a marked increase in the past 6 years in the United States and an even greater rise in Europe. I believe the best way to combat anti-Semitism is by educating our children. Our schools are the best place to teach our youth that bigotry, hate, prejudice, and xenophobia have no place in society. One of the primary goals of the JCOB is to educate the students in Dare and the surrounding counties about the effects of anti-Semitism. In 2014, the JCOB assisted your media coordinators by bringing poster boards, mostly featuring the anti-Nazi writings of Dr. Seuss, from Raleigh to the Outer Banks. 2 years after, we helped purchase reading materials, first for First Flight Middle School, and then for Manteo Middle School. Every year, the world remembers 2 Holocaust dates. January 27th, we recall International Holocaust Remembrance Day, when the Russian army liberated Auschwitz. Today, August 17th, is designated Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day, corresponding to the Jewish uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto. Hitler blamed the Jews for Germany's defeat in World War I, and his final solution resulted in the extermination of 6 million Jews, of which 1 million were children, as well as millions of gypsies, Catholics, disabled persons, and those with non-traditional lifestyles. For the last 18 years, the Jewish and Unitarian communities hold a joint 1-hour memorial service that includes the reading of names of human beings who were slaughtered by the Nazis. The JCOB also sponsors an essay contest in our schools related to Yom HaShoah. Students read their winning essays and receive cash prizes. In Dare County, last year's top high school students had their pictures taken, and the winning essay was posted on the Outer Banks Voices website. This year, we have winners in both the high schools and the middle schools, and also in Terrell County. As such, I would like to invite Chairman Payne or any other board member to attend this year's event, which will occur this Friday night, April 21st at 7 p.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Building on Kitty Hawk Road and Herbert Perry Road, so they can hand out the awards to the 5 Dare County winners. Thank you for your time. I practiced 20 seconds faster than that. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Bass Knight.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, and the public. Want to come to you tonight to give you a general overview of the budget process. We are not presenting the budget to you tonight. We have a draft to present to you tonight for you to look over and to bring with you to the workshop next week. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background about the budget in general and its evolution and some of the high points in our budget process this year. There's an old adage that states where your money is, there also will be your focus. Or, more plainly stated, you can tell where a person's true priorities are by where they spend their money. We want to be very clear about our focus with the following budgetary priorities. Our budget is and will be on student learning. Successful learning environments can only exist when our students feel safe and our staff feels valued. To provide successful opportunities for our students and staff to learn and grow, qualified and caring administrators, teachers, and support staff are all necessary foundations to make this happen. The driving force behind this budget, refocusing on our purpose, and that being educating students. Focusing on growth, improvement, and learning together. Valuing and appreciating our employees, reestablishing the excitement of working in Dare County schools, and bringing the district back together as a team again. In planning our future, a budget is more than numbers. It is a planning tool for that future. This budget is setting the stage for the future of Dare County schools. Budgets are based on knowledge, but that knowledge is knowledge at that time. Everyone must understand that this is a framework and that things can and do change. We're allotted funding from various sources, state funding, federal funding, local funding, capital outlay funding, school nutrition funding, after-school enrichment funding, and other local funding. Stated differently, we have the state fund that pays for a certain amount of our education in Dare County. We have our local operating fund, which is paid for by our Dare County commissioners. We have federal grants that help pay for some of our funding, and we have other funding sources. And those funding sources are broken down on the right side. They are fines and forfeitures, pre-K grants, interest, use of our facilities, indirect cost, and miscellaneous. We would be remiss if we did not take the time to acknowledge the tremendous support we receive from our county commissioners, our county manager, and all Dare County officials. Education in Dare County truly matters to each of these individuals, and they do not hesitate to prove it. Whether it's through regular conversations as the second largest funding source for our schools or through our joint meetings, our county officials listen to the needs and safety of our schools and believe in providing quality learning opportunities for all students and staff in Dare County schools. This is a balanced budget based on current state and local planning estimates. These budget expenditures are set up in program codes. There are 39 separate program codes referenced in our current estimates. Conditions affecting budget planning for this year. There is a possibility, and I wish this were higher, there is a possibility that North Carolina could increase salaries by 5%. Our insurance premiums are projected to increase by $222 for each full-time employee. The retirement rate is expected to increase from 24.5% to 24.62%. And our ESSER 3 federal funding will expire in 2024, requiring an additional funding source for many of our interventionist positions as we possibly can find. The amount of this total proposed budget is $72,550,000. This includes approximately $38,400,000 in expected funding from the state of North Carolina, and this total also includes approximately $26,900,000 in requested funding from Dare County. Just to give you a look into a day over the past 10 years in Dare County schools, this is our average daily membership as measured in our second month of school, which is the month that the state takes our figures from. As you can see, in 2013, we had about 5,020 students, and slight bump in population in 17, 18, and 19. But currently, in the last fall, we were at 5,035 students. So the population hadn't changed. How come the money needs to go up? It's a good question. Because anybody that knows that's bought anything recently knows that the cost of everything is going up. This budget is 80% focused on instruction, and less than 20% is focused on support. To break it down even further, of the $72,550,000, $61 million of that goes to salaries and benefits for our employees, or 84.1%. The second highest category is services at 11%, and that's $8 million. And finally, supplies and equipment at 4.9%, and that's $3,550,000. Now, I want to break some of those categories down even further for you. Of the 84.1% in salaries and benefits, 59% of that is salaries, 25% of that is benefits. And those benefits are health insurance, Social Security, and retirement. Looking at it graphically, 87% of the 84.1% is direct instructional purpose. Under the services category, the second highest, the 11%, services are broken into two separate categories. Direct instruction, those are like classroom supplies, speech and language, instructional contracted services, transportation, and athletic and extracurricular funding. And the second category is non-instructional support, and that's maintenance and utilities. All of this is funded locally in Dare County because we do not receive low wealth or small schools funding. So under services, of the 11% proposed operating budget for services, as you can see, 34% of that would go to instructional support, but 66% goes to support services. Of that 66%, almost half, 44%, is utility expenses. There are several areas of focus that have driven our budget process this year. I want to highlight some of those for you. First and foremost is the focus on student learning. Student learning and our decisions on student learning are going to be centered on the decisions we make based on the data we receive on how our kids are doing in the classroom. We want to provide personalized educational options and opportunities for all of our students. We want to look at revamping the current Dare County Schools strategic plan for the next 5 years. And we want to align our goals, not from the Board of Education down to student learning, but from student learning to the Board of Education policies. The second area is teacher recruitment and retention. We are currently and will continue to review the structure of staff pay scales to bring alignment with the state scales. We would like the opportunity to provide additional staff benefits and options for those benefits, something that the board has been discussing. We want to continue to research additional affordable housing options for our employees. And we want to provide options for staff in federal ESSER 3 funded positions, which currently expires next September 2024. Just a point of reference as definition, ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Funds, and all of those funds will expire in September of 2024. ESSER 2 funds will expire in September 2023, this year. School security is something we began looking at when I first walked in. We had an excellent briefing and meeting today. It is something we're going to continue to strengthen. We've met with our law enforcement partners, both in our towns as well as in our county, outstanding individuals that have pledged their support to us. We want to increase that law enforcement presence in our schools through random walkthroughs and regular security checks, as well as their recommendations on how to strengthen our security protocols. We are currently looking at technology upgrades, whether that's through emergency notifications, building entry and access points, as well as our video surveillance. We want to increase our security and active shooter trainings district-wide in our buildings after hours. We plan to have at least quarterly teacher and law enforcement roundtables discussions to talk about our safety protocols, to talk about how our drills went, whether that's a fire drill, a tornado drill, or a lockdown drill, and areas that we can improve, because our feeling is every time you do a drill, you should find something to improve on. And then finally, increase our nonviolent crisis intervention training district-wide by providing training for local trainers to train in the train the trainer model in Dare County schools. And finally, and I want to stress this, the areas of specific focus cannot be accomplished without providing our staff with a professional development to be successful. You can throw all the programs you can buy at people if you don't train them how to best use them. We're going to use data-informed professional development. We want to increase our student learning in our classrooms. We want to provide growth and training opportunities for our professional educators and all of our staffs. We want to expose our staff to resources and experts in the field of education. We're going to increase the safety and security training for all staff and provide support for all of our professionals, from beginning teachers to our administrators. What our proposed budget document contains. The budget document that you're about to receive is outlined by program, beginning with program code 001, which is classroom teachers, through program code 806, which is maintenance. It will show you financial data from last year, the 2021 school year, the proposed budget for this school year, the 2022-23 budget, expenditures to date for this year through March 31st, expected expenditures for next year, the 23-24 year, a description of each program code and the allotment type that we receive for that program code, and an explanation of the purpose of each program code. Mr. Blackstock, do you have those? Mr. Blackstock will now hand each of the board members a draft budget that we'll be taking to our workshop next week. I wanted to give it to you with a little time to be able to go through it so you're prepared to come to your workshop as opposed to looking at it that day. Any questions? If not, thank you very much.
Mr. Bass Knight, thank you. Look
Yes, sir.
forward to next week. Next is unfinished business, and there are no items listed for discussion, so we'll move on to new business, and I'll turn the meeting over to Board Attorney Brian Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a number of policies here up for first reading. And of course, the board could approve any of these finally on first reading, but the standard practice is to have a first reading, ask any questions, then have them come back for final approval on a second reading. So because of that, I won't go through all these policies. They've been presented to the board for reading. Glad to answer as best I can any questions any board members might have, and I'm sure Mr. Basnight, Blackstock would as well. Or during the course of this next month, if there are any suggestions for approvals, we can take those into account and bring them back for final approval next month. So the policies are 2120, Code of Ethics for School Board Members, 2121, Board Member Conflict of Interest, 2123, Board Member Opportunities for Development, Board Policy 6455, Bids and Quotations. And those are all current policies with some revisions. Then we have two new proposed policies, 6402, Ethics and the Purchasing Function, and 6128, Administration of Naloxone. Are there any questions or comments by board members?
The one question I have is on policy 6455. The informal bid procedures will be followed for construction or repair work when estimates expenditures of 500,000 or more. It was 300,000. Can you explain the reason why that's increased to 500,000?
Yeah, the $300,000 was a limit that was formerly imposed by North Carolina statute. A number of years ago, that limit was raised to $500,000 under the North Carolina statute, whereas the board policy remained at $300,000. It's purely policy matter for the board whether to keep it at 300 or 500,000. The general approach has been to, in the past, has had the board policy match the general statute limits. That's why it was raised.
The state raised the funding, the board policy didn't change. Any further questions, board?
And again, if over the course of this month, if anybody has any questions, either board level or administrative level, we'll be glad to work with them and bring a final copy for next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Next, we'll hear from Ian Adams, Director of Facilities, in regards to a request to change location of Manteo High School softball field house.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, and public. A few months ago, we approved the building of a field house for the softball team and storage at Manteo High School. After looking at it and kicking the rocks around for a little while, we decided that the original proposed location was not the best option. It crossed over sewage lines, sidewalk, and there would have been more damage done installing the building than there would have been benefit of installing the building. So we attached in the agenda is a new proposed location. Myself, Principal Luciano, and Athletic Director all looked at it and agreed, and had no problems with moving it, saving us all a little headache for later. So the superintendent recommends the board approve the amended location for a new softball field house at Manteo High School.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the change in location for the softball field house at Manteo High School as requested.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the Dare County Schools Capital Improvement Plan for 2023-24 to 2027-28. And I'll turn the meeting back over to Mr. Adams.
Good afternoon again. Capital improvement is the ugly side of the budget, I like to call it. It's an improvement that costs a lot of money, but nobody ever really sees what we do. So it's air handlers, roofs, some upgrades to playgrounds and facilities that we do see, but most of it lies on the roof or in the woods, and you never get to see it. Actually intend on taking some pictures this year and next year as we're doing project and putting them out so people know where this $600,000 goes to. With that being said, this is a very fluid thing. As Mr. Bass and I talked about earlier, the economics have been crazy over the past couple of years, and numbers have moved a lot. The items themselves have not moved terribly, but for the next year, one of the biggest things, or a few of the biggest things we have are roof replacement at First Flight High School, and broken that up over 2 years, starting with $600,000 for the first year. We have more air handlers at First Flight Elementary. That's breaking those up over the next couple of years so we don't run into the issue we had this year and the previous year of replacing multiple air handlers, chillers during the same year. Track resurface, hopefully at Manteo High School. Not hopefully, we will do something. It's $300,000 and it's been long neglected, and hopefully we can put a good dent in that for next year. We also have more chillers at Manteo High School. A roof replacement at Manteo Middle School is a big item, as well as more playground equipment and some accessibility items down at Cape Hatteras Elementary. Next few years are going to be fluid at best. Use the word that keeps getting repeated. But the items should be the same, and hopefully the budget won't go up too much. But the superintendent recommends the board approve Dare County Schools Capital Improvement Plan for 2023 and through 2024 to 2027 to 2028 as presented.
Mr. Chairman, if I could. I want to congratulate Ian. He has worked diligently multiple times on this capital improvement plan. Coming in, we initially rearranged some of the projects to keep the costs down to something reasonable. And then those were original costs, I think, from the original capital improvement plan. So then he had to go back and rebid those to find the actual costs that we were paying or would have to pay currently for those same projects. came back in again and we shuffled some more. And he's done a tremendous job in finding ways to not only prioritize where we needed to spend this money, but to get the things done that needed to be done. So just really wanted to thank him for his hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion to approve the Dare County Schools Capital Improvement Plan for the 2023-24 to 2027-28 as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Adams. There's a request to approve a contract for the replacement of 2 air handler units at Cape Hatteras Secondary School.
Yes, sir. Well, hang on, I have this one on my phone.
We just received this this afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. We're trying to get this done.
All right, Cape Hatteras Secondary School air handler replacement for air handlers 7 and 8. These are 2 big units in the gym, and if they go down, nobody's happy. They have quite a few years on it, but a couple weeks ago, we did hold a bid opening for those air handling units at central office. 3 bids were received. The lowest, most responsive and responsible bid for this project was Southeastern Mechanical of Chesapeake, Virginia. The low bid amount was $458,649. Much better than I expected. The superintendent recommends the board approve a contract with Southeastern Mechanical in the amount of $458,649 for the replacement of 2 AHUs at Cape Hatteras Secondary School.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
I think you're finished this time.
Wait a minute. Where are you going?
And for the final item under new business, I'll turn the meeting back over to Mr. Bass Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board. Following a report from the facilities naming team, I'm bringing a recommendation from that team to the board. Representatives of the facilities naming team met to consider a community request to name the Manteo High School soccer field in honor of Mr. Frank Rablick, who's a former Manteo High School teacher and coach. As per Board Policy 9300, and I quote, "Active staff members, coaches, Board of Education members, or volunteers are not eligible," which means Mr. Rablick's ineligibility at this time since he is actively serving as a substitute teacher in Dare County Schools. The team decided they would still like to honor Mr. Rablick for his many contributions to Manteo High School. Therefore, the team decided to carry out the direction of a previous board by establishing a Frank Rablick Honorary Math Award Showcase in Manteo High School to house student and math team recognitions. In addition to the showcase, the facilities naming team would like board approval to erect a plaque in the area of the soccer field that honors the accomplishments of Coach Frank Rablick's soccer teams and to revisit the request of renaming the field at such time as Mr. Rablick becomes eligible. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend the board approve the Facilities Naming Committee's request to erect a plaque in the area of the soccer field that honors the accomplishments of Coach Frank Rablick's soccer teams and to approve the request to revisit the facilities naming request at such time as Coach Rablick becomes eligible.
There's a motion as presented by Mr. Bass Knight.
So moved.
So moved. A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Bass Knight. This concludes our business portion of the meeting. I'd like to now open the floor for comments from the board. Mr. Twitty?
I have
Have none? Barry?
I don't have any.
Ms. Bothwell? Mr. Woody?
One quick comment. At our last meeting, we talked about the early college getting a letter of intent. Are we still on schedule to get that letter of intent, or do we need approval by us, or?
We haven't received the timeline actually yet for when those would be submitted. So I'm anticipating we would have an opportunity next month for you to approve that letter.
Ms. Brower?
Nothing.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are now adjourned. Thank you.